You never stop dealing with cancer. It's always an ongoing process. I'm a different person than I was before. I take each day as it comes now.
Once you've had cancer, you have cancer for a lifetime. So you learn to deal with it every day. You try not to let it consume you.
Getting back to the living has been the most challenging because of the fear of recurrence. I don't have the luxury of having an ache like anyone else might have and think, oh, it's just a headache, it's just the flu.
I think I'm a realist. I've had cancer 4 times. I've had the treatments for those, and I know the repercussions. During active treatment, you do receive a lot more support. And when you're done, people just assume that, you're done. It wasn't like I'm done. I wish it were.
After all the flurry of treatments and running back and forth to the doctor, it was almost like a ghost town in my life. The tumbleweeds would go by my house, and I would stand outside and say, okay, where's everybody? It's a long, long, long race. It's not over just because you finished treatment. You're not going back to your old life. You're going back to the unknown.
Historically in medicine, we've focused a tremendous amount of attention on getting the patient through the acute phase of the cancer, getting them cured. To a certain degree, patients end up being left out in the cold after their treatment is all finished. The physicians need to go on to other cases who need the care more acutely, and the patients are left to deal with all of their issues really without much guidance and without a lot of experience from the medical community.
Everybody talks about, treating the cancer. What they don't talk about is, now that the patient's been treated, then what do you do?
We'd like to think that patients just go about their lives and return to absolutely normal lives, but it turns out they don't.
The impact of this Institute of Medicine report can be that for the first time there's a wake-up call issued. We are doing much better in the war on cancer, and it's time to recognize that there are things that we can do to help the quality of life for patients who are surviving after cancer treatment.
There was a time, just 30 or 40 years ago, when a cancer diagnosis was considered a death sentence. With rare exception, survivorship was short, treatment options limited, and hope nearly impossible to find. Today, thanks to earlier detection and improved treatment regimens, more and more Americans are surviving cancer. 10 million of us live with it every day. But with long-term survival comes an urgent new challenge: how to keep cancer survivors healthy and ensure quality of life after their treatment ends.
The research has demonstrated that cancer survivors often have symptoms that persist for years. Problems such as ongoing pain, fatigue, appetite disturbance, difficulties breathing. There are many physical effects from the cancer itself or from treatments that people have experienced that need to be treated, or they will severely impact the person's quality of life.
We're beginning to think about cancer now as a chronic disease, similar to the way we would think about diabetes or heart disease, where in fact the treatment may be finished, but the susceptibility or ongoing follow-up needs of that individual persist.
Healthcare providers often think that the moment we say to a patient, your cancer care is completed, you can go back to your regular healthcare system, your primary doctor, you don't need to come here to the cancer center anymore. We think that should be great news, a celebration. And yet many cancer survivors have said that was the most terrifying moment of their entire cancer experience.
I remember the day of my last treatment. I thought I would be elated and just screaming and yelling and happy, and I remember the drive home, and I had to pull to the side of the road because I was so overtaken by grief at that moment. It was like that was the moment that I could finally allow myself to grieve over what had happened to me. While I was going through treatment, I felt like a warrior in a war. When the treatment ended, I felt like a warrior without a war. I don't have to see the doctors every day. What do I do with myself now? Who do I talk to? What about my feelings? What about my life?
I asked what would my chances be about having children, and they said, well, you would go on tamoxifen after, and you would not be able to get pregnant during that time, and that would put you into menopause, and so you would not be able to get pregnant and have children. And to me, to this day, that was more devastating news, because with cancer you can get into remission, but when you're told you can't have your family, you're not going to be able to have children, that's worse.
Prostate cancer has presented a major challenge to my wife and I. We've always been very close. And since prostate cancer, my sexuality certainly has become an issue. And it's an issue that I, quite frankly, wish that we didn't have, but it's there.
It's a lifelong process. I'm reminded of it when I see my body every day with the scars that I have. My neuropathy from my chemo that I had and my colitis from the radiation that I have. It's ongoing. It's not going to go away. I wish I had a magic wand and say, okay, you have no more scars. You didn't have this, but that's not the case. Reality is I did.
For us as a society and for a healthcare system to assume that someone who has completed cancer therapy is just like anyone else is an absolutely ridiculous thought, because the person who has experienced a serious illness such as cancer and has undergone the kinds of treatments that we provide for cancer has very special needs.
Facing an uncertain future and often fragmented care, cancer patients urgently need a survivorship care plan. A written, portable personal record containing information about the treatment and consequences of their cancer.
Right now, there's no real system about how we hand off cancer patients to the primary care physician. It's chaotic, it's haphazard.
Cancer survivors are often lost to follow-up. They don't know how often they should go to the doctor, what tests should be done, how they should be monitored, and how care should be coordinated between their cancer specialists and their primary care doctors.
What we would like to see in the healthcare system is that a survivor brings with him or her to the healthcare provider a survivorship care plan. And that plan would include a brief summary of what has happened to me in terms of diagnoses and my treatments. What do you need to know? And secondly, what is recommended for the future? What diagnostic tests or follow-up or special care is needed to ensure the best quality of life in my survivorship?
Here's an example of a survivorship care plan which outlines the treatment a woman with breast cancer had. And it tells us about the stage of her disease, her age, and the date the diagnosis was made, the specific treatments that she received, and the late toxicity monitoring that she's going to need, as well as which physicians are going to be responsible for her follow-up care. We also talk about psychosocial issues that might be important for her, and then what preventive behaviors and interventions that are necessary.
I was originally treated in Tucson for my initial cancer and also for my recurrence. And then after treatment for my second cancer, I moved to Los Angeles. And I made sure to carry as many records as I could with me. It was very important when I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that I had those records, because my doctor at the time could review my records, and she saw the amount of chemotherapy I'd received in the past and was able to tailor my treatment based upon that, because my original chemotherapy caused toxicity, and anything over that amount would have been very detrimental.
The follow-up plan is particularly important because cancer patients themselves are a high-risk group. They're high risk because whatever predisposed them to get cancer to begin with is still there, and so they're at high risk from that. But they're also high risk because the treatments that they experience can themselves put the patient at high risk for yet another cancer. Now, that's something that's obvious to the medical oncologist or the radiation oncologist, but it may not be so apparent to the primary care physician who's following the patient 25 years later.
If there are issues that the primary care doctor needs to be informed of, that I share those with them. And if there are issues that they have for me, I need to make sure that I get those issues. So there needs to be more give and take.
In the primary care community, there's a tremendous amount of time pressure already to manage patients on shorter and shorter time frames. And anything that we can do to try and make that period more efficient for the primary care physician has got to be beneficial, not only to the primary care doc, but also to the patient.
The physical and emotional effects of cancer, both short and long-term, present unique challenges to every cancer survivor. But just as potentially devastating are the financial, social, and employment issues that often arise after treatment.
When I got sick, they were only allowed to keep me on 4 months on disability, and then they just let me go. And I lost my job. You're replaceable. It doesn't feel good to know that. You're already fighting for your life. Now you got to fight for your job too.
I think the effects of being disabled and not being able to work has been a lot more difficult than I thought. It's been difficult not having kind of a purpose, something that you could go to day, a routine. It's difficult not having the social contact that you normally would have in a work setting.
I think for my husband, what changed is the bills kept coming. I see him more worried and concerned when the mail comes in. I think it's $24,000 I owe. That's 20% that the patient has to pay, that I have to pay after the insurance has taken and deducted everything that they cover. I think it puts a strain on my marriage to have that much debt. I feel like it's my fault that we're in this position. And he will tell me no. He reassures me all the time. But I see him working long hours, trying to make ends meet, coming home when it's getting dark. And he leaves when it's dark, he comes home when it's dark. He's tired, and we still can't pay the bills.
Insurance for me has been a major issue in this experience. About a year after I left treatment, I did start to interview with other law firms and other companies, and found that the insurance didn't match what I had. So I'm sort of stuck doing what I'm doing now. It's not what I like. It's not what I had hoped for my life. It's not what I had imagined I would do. But here I am, and I'm grateful to have the position. I'm grateful to have the insurance. But it is, there again, is a lasting effect of cancer.
I'm still alive today after 26 years, and I'm grateful and thankful for that. And I'd like to think that I still have a lot more that I can do, that I can offer, that I can contribute to in my life, even though it's diminished. I can't do the things that I thought I was going to do when I was 18. And life didn't really work out the way I thought it was going to work out. But it is the life I have now, and it's a blessing that I still am able to complain about it, I guess.
I never know how much longer I'm going to have. I have to live each day as it comes, live each minute as it comes. I have big plans for myself. I want to still go to school and pursue another degree. And someday have a boyfriend and get married. I want to do things. I want to live life. I never would have thought I would do Dragon Boat. I never thought I would do skydiving. And I never thought I would do a marathon. And I'm doing those things now, and I'm enjoying it. I'm putting red highlights in my hair. I never used to do that. I think it's to show that, hey, I'm alive. I'm here. Look at me.
Many cancer patients and survivors tell us that having cancer was the most important and valuable and life-transforming experience that they've had. It's paradoxical that something that is life-threatening could do this, but the inner strength and the power that some individuals feel by having conquered cancer allows them to move forward and do so many other things.
The goal is to return the cancer survivor to as normal a life as possible, and to reassure them that their care will be optimal and that the medical system will be there for them when they need it. And we can do that.
I think the key point is that we have to decide that we're going to do it. We have to pay attention to the patients and what the patient's needs are, and we have to make sure that we develop standards.
We've been able to treat cancer in a better way, such that now 10 million people do live with cancer, then surely we can muster the energy so that we can tend to the quality of life concerns that these people will face.
I need to know what to expect after treatment.
I need follow-up care.
I need my doctors to communicate with each other.
I need to be covered by insurance.
I need to be treated fairly at work.
I need to believe I can have a healthy future.